Hey, ladies and gentlemen, legislative update kind of for the week here in Washington. But before we start that, I hope you can just join me in praying for our fallen officers in York County. Happened this week. Of course, nothing prepares us, certainly not the families, for these kind of things and this horrific tragedy that happened right here at home in our community. And they sure need our thoughts and prayers at this moment. And I just think about, the psalm where it says that the heartbroken are the ones who the Lord is close to. And we are certainly heartbroken at this time. And I just remind everybody that being a police officer is one of the few professions in our world where you leave for work every single day not knowing if you're ever going to come home. And that's a really special and unique calling. And there are very few people that do it, which is why oftentimes police officers are referred to our finest, and they indeed are, because they choose this life that unfortunately and too many times leads to this absolutely tremendous sacrifice. And now families are without their fathers, their brothers, their sons. And like I said, nothing prepares you for that. So, we certainly hope that they rest in peace and that their families have our prayers, and that somehow the good Lord can assuage the unimaginable emptiness, the vacuum that is created when somebody doesn't come home. And of course, the tragedy and the pain of what has happened in our very own community. And to the Northern York Regional Police and our Sheriff's Office, I was just with them on Saturday as they open a new headquarters and facility, and so it's just particularly raw and personal. And so I just, of course, we've known both these departments for years upon years, and the individuals that serve in them. So it is personal, unfortunately, but for all of us, it should be personal, and we obviously want to support them in any way that we can, and just ask for God's blessing on each one of them. May they rest in peace. And as I'd say in the Army, here's to them and all those like them, which are darn few. God bless all of them. This week in Washington, D.C., we, at least for the House's standpoint, averted a looming government shutdown in September. What this means is we don't have our work done here in the House. We have appreciably more done in the House than the Senate, so it's not complete yet. And we want to give them a little more time to try and complete that. So we passed a continuing resolution, which, as you know, I don't often favor or very rarely favor. This one keeps spending flat, which is a good sign that we're headed in the right trajectory. And so we passed that in the House. Of course, it'll need to be passed in the Senate. Otherwise, at the end of the month, which is essentially a week and a half away or something like that, we will be in what we consider kind of like a shutdown scenario. So I hope that doesn't happen. The House passed its version, and hopefully the Senate will follow suit. Otherwise, in DC, among other things, we had a hearing in the Oversight Committee on DC crime. If you watched, you'll see the mayor was there. They're essentially their attorney general for the District of Columbia, and we asked questions because obviously, based on the president's actions, crime can be reduced. Crime can be diminished if you're committed to doing that. In particular, I did ask about because DC, believe it or not, has the worst traffic of any city in the United States of America. And I attribute that to a couple things, not the least of which is their overuse of red light cameras and, believe it or not, right turn cameras. So you can't turn right on red in Washington, DC. And I made the case that the DC City Council and the mayor are dependent on the revenue from the cameras as opposed to working for safety. And I would just use the example of Hoboken, New Jersey, the fourth most densely packed community in the country, who has no automatic traffic control cameras, but have 0 fatalities on their streets, and there's no empirical data, and the mayor couldn't provide any, which proves that all this revenue generation and all this enforcement through traffic cameras produces any more safety for anybody. As a matter of fact, in some of the most poor areas of Washington, D.C., it is the greatest burden of the poorest people to pay for D.C. city's government. And I just remind everybody, I didn't get to do it during their testimony, but D.C. is going to pay $1 billion to the NFL for a new stadium. And at the same time, the NFL is a tax-exempt organization. I just don't think that's proper, and I think it's a misuse of fund, especially for those who can least afford it. So I introduced this week the Stop DC Camera Act to end that. And as you probably know, if you read, I think it's Section 8 of Article 1 of the Constitution, the Congress has control of Washington, D.C., where we desire to do that. So that's generally the news from the week. We did have a big markup in Foreign Affairs to reauthorize the Department of State. It did pass. I had some significant issues with it, and we'll just see what the outcome of that is if it comes to the floor. But that's generally what happened this week in Washington, D.C., and so we'll check in with you the next time we're in town. And until then, I hope you have a very safe and blessed day. And again, please pray for our officers and our families in York County. God bless you.